Have you ever sat on a plane, just another face in the crowd, believing you were invisible, only to discover that someone knew your secret, a secret that could mean the difference between life and death? This is the story of a woman who boarded as a nobody in row 10, a simple passenger no one paid attention to, until the pilot whispered her code name. That whisper didn't just save the plane. It revealed a past buried so deep that even those closest to her never knew. Stay with me till the very end, because what unfolds in this story will leave you breathless. And before we dive in, make sure you subscribe for more stories that will keep you hooked from start to finish. The plane to London was nearly full that evening. Families shuffled children into seats, business travelers powered up laptops, and tourists flipped through guidebooks. To most eyes, row 10, seat B, held nothing unusual. A woman sat quietly, her hair pulled back, her outfit modest, neither flashy nor memorable. She looked like someone who wanted to disappear into the hum of the engines and the chatter of strangers. Her name, at least the one on the boarding pass, was Clara James. Nobody looked twice. Nobody knew that Clara James wasn't her real name. Nobody knew that 10 years earlier, she had walked away from a world where her every breath could change the fate of nations. The flight attendants went through their routine. Safety instructions. Seatbelt clicked. Engines roared. As the plane lifted into the night sky, Clara stared out the window, her reflection blending with the stars. To everyone else, she was a nobody, but the pilot up front knew otherwise. An hour into the flight, everything changed. A commotion erupted near the back. A man had stood up, shouting at passengers, demanding the crew open the cockpit. He wasn't alone. Two others rose from different rows, coordinated. Panic rippled through the cabin. Children screamed. Passengers froze. The hijackers moved fast, brandishing makeshift weapons. They pushed attendants aside and made their way forward. The pilot locked the cockpit door, broadcasting calm over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, remain seated. We are handling the situation. But his voice trembled. The situation was already spiraling out of control. Clara's heart pounded. She had sworn never to get involved again. She had promised herself she was done with this life. But instinct screamed at her. She scanned the attackers, their eyes, their movements, their formation. She could see weaknesses, patterns, tells. Once she had been trained to spot these things before anyone else could blink. And then the intercom clicked again, this time not to the passengers, but to her. Row 10, codename Phoenix. We need you. At first, she froze. Phoenix, the name she thought had been buried forever. The code name she had carried when she was an undercover operative, a ghost in the intelligence world. The pilot wasn't supposed to know. Nobody was supposed to know. Gasps spread around her row. Passengers turned to look at her. She tried to shrink back, but the damage was done. The pilot had called her out. Slowly, Clara rose. The hijackers noticed. One of them barked, "Sit down." She didn't. Her eyes locked on the cockpit, her body language calm, controlled. In that moment, the passengers saw her differently. Not a nobody, not a stranger, but someone radiating authority. Phoenix, the pilot's voice repeated, urgent. They're here for the codes. You know what to do. In an instant, everything made sense. These weren't random hijackers. They weren't after money or fame. They wanted something on board, something classified. Clara knew because years ago, she had been part of the team that had smuggled out that very technology, ensuring it never fell into enemy hands. She had gone dark afterward, building a new life, erasing every trace. Or so she thought. Now it was back. And so was she. Her mind raced. 3 hijackers. 1 injured flight attendant. Panik fast. She couldn't reveal too much. She couldn't show her hand until the exact right moment. She whispered to the terrified woman next to her, "When I move, don't scream. Trust me." Then she stood. The lead hijacker lunged toward her, weapon raised. But Clara was already moving. Years of training returned like muscle memory. She sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and twisted, forcing the weapon free before driving her elbow into his chest. He collapsed, gasping. The second attacker charged, but Clara's movements were precise, economical. A kick to the knee, a strike to the throat. He went down hard. The passengers gasped, stunned into silence. This wasn't just luck, this was expertise. The third hijacker hesitated, fear flickering in his eyes. Clara locked onto him, her voice low and commanding. It's over. Surrender now. But he didn't. He lunged anyway, desperate. She dodged, grabbed his arm, and slammed him into the aisle wall, pinning him with one hand while passengers scrambled to tie him with belts and scarves. Within minutes, the cabin was secure. The threat was neutralized. The passengers erupted into applause, tears, cheers. Some whispered, "Who is she?" Others already knew, Phoenix. Clara returned to her seat, her hands trembling now that the adrenaline was wearing off. The pilot's voice returned, calmer, filled with gratitude. "Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to a passenger on board, codenamed Phoenix, we are safe." Passengers turned toward her, some clapping, some in awe, some simply staring. But Clara looked down, embarrassed. She hadn't wanted this. She had wanted anonymity, peace. But fate never lets go of its chosen. The plane descended toward London. A pair of fighter jets flanked it, escorting them safely in. Clara knew they weren't there for the passengers. They were there for her. The plane landed to thunderous applause. News crews were kept at bay, but the story was already spreading. A mysterious passenger had saved a plane from hijackers. Nobody knew her real name. Nobody knew her past. Clara slipped away quietly, disappearing into the city streets. But the next morning, as she brewed her coffee in her small London flat, there was a knock on her door. She opened it to find two figures in suits, intelligence officers. "Phoenix," one said with a thin smile. "You did well. But you know what this means, don't you? You're back on the grid." She froze. She had wanted peace, but peace had never wanted her. She was no longer just Clara James, the nobody in row 10. She was Phoenix again, and the world was waiting. And that's the story, friends. A reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary people are sitting right beside us, hiding lives we can't even imagine. She boarded that plane as nobody. She stepped off as a legend. If this story gave you chills, if it made you believe that heroes walk among us in silence, then don't forget to subscribe. Because we bring you more stories like this, of courage, secrets, and moments that change everything.